Welcome to the Athlete Insights Podcast, hosted by Yash Padhye, a podcast focused on letting athletes tell their journeys in their sport. This podcast is presented by Boxed Water. Boxed Water is better.
Welcome into another episode of the Athlete Insights Podcast. Today I've got my guest, Chris Agyemang here. He was a former Ball State defensive lineman at Ball State and at Sacred Heart University. And so, Chris, appreciate you taking the time. I know you're a little busy right now, but I appreciate you taking the time to come on board.
Appreciate it, gotta, thanks for having me. Fellow Cardinals, we gotta
Yeah,
support each other,
yeah, go Cards, baby.
to,
Um, so I know you're at Sacred Heart, you're at Ball State. Let's go back to kind of when you first started playing football, right? Can you talk to me about that and kind of what drew you? When was your first earliest memory of playing football? Kind of what drew you to football? Um,
yeah, so, when I was younger, a little chubbier, I was a little bigger in
mhm.
my age. So around like fourth grade, obviously I liked, watching it, grew up in Massachusetts, we've been spoiled with the Patriots, right? So just being able
Yeah,
to, um, watch them have success and everything, and obviously just liking the game. So I just started playing in fourth grade.
hmm.
Uh, I started out, I was like, that Pop Warner and stuff like that. So I
Gotcha.
started out playing, lineman and stuff, and then I don't know, I played lineman, played running back, played all these positions, and then yeah, honestly, just like I said, just watching the Patriots and then just enjoying it, and then finally wanting to be a part of it, and
Hmm.
that's basically the main things that drew me to playing the game.
Gotcha. Did you play anything else outside of football when you were younger, like basketball? Uh, Anything else? Basketball, soccer, anything in that regard?
Yeah, so back in elementary school, I think I played like 1 or 2 years of baseball, and then
Okay,
in high school, or no, for first, I played basketball from first grade to like high school. Yeah. So,
hmm. Okay.
yeah. So basically, basketball and football, or I guess once I got high school and stuff, that's what I was playing and all that.
More focused on that. And you say you were a little chubbier as a kid, so you started playing lineman early on. Was there any other position on the football field that you did play when you were
Yeah.
younger as well?
Yeah. So in fourth grade, like when I first started out, playing lineman and stuff, then
Uh-huh.
I think eventually, I got moved to fullback, and
Okay.
then like sixth, seventh grade, I was playing
Hmm.
like a running back, and then running back, and then linebacker. Actually, high school, that was my primary position. I started playing linebacker, and then I
Gotcha.
played linebacker and tight end were my high school positions.
Hmm.
I played a middle linebacker and tight end. Just,
Okay. We're kind of your high school realm. And so kind of
yeah.
talking about your time in playing youth football, Pop Warner football, like you said, is there one core memory, something that really stands out to you from your youth days playing football specifically?
Um, I just feel like obviously football, you learn a lot of lessons and everything. So
Yeah.
just when you're younger, obviously you don't see it now, but when you whether you're still playing or when you're done playing, you reflect back and look at all those
Hmm.
times. A core memory,
Or like
I
just a memory you have from your youth football days.
think it was one time. I think it was like maybe sixth, seventh grade. I'm like, I wanted to kick. I wanted to kick or something. So I think there was one time like,
Yeah.
do like after you score a touchdown, you just do the regular kickoff.
Yeah.
So I remember like that week before, just practicing, like
Uh-huh.
like digging. We had like a grass field, so like kind of digging a hole into the um.
The
I,
field a
I,
little bit, yeah.
so digging in there and just
Hmm.
practice. And I finally did the kick, and I think I ended up doing good because you obviously get one chance, so it's like
Yeah.
that was something that I think stuck out to you because it's like obviously you're nervous. It's kind of like life, you try new things, you're
Hmm.
nervous, you know,
Yep.
you get through it. So it was good. I guess that's something like
Good. Facing your fear, facing your nervousness in that way,
that.
in that regard. And so we'll move
Yeah.
into kind of your high school career now and talk about that process. And can you talk about your high school experience? How did your high school experience go? What did you kind of learn from your high school experience? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I grew up in Massachusetts and everything. I went to my public high school
Mm-hmm.
uh, in Billerica, Mass. I went there for 3 years, and I decided I didn't think I was getting what I needed from there, so I decided to transfer to a prep school, a small prep
Mm-hmm.
school. I actually reclassified. People do that nowadays. So
Yeah.
classified. So did 5 years of high school actually, and then I went to Prague Academy for 2 years. I
Mm-hmm.
graduated from there. Yeah, so I did that, and obviously the idea was to get maybe more looks, obviously, and
Yeah.
be around people that are like minded because those type of schools typically have something that it's a lot of people that are sports driven, and,
Yep.
so it was a good experience, and it was small school, so you're able to focus.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Different experience. You have school on Saturdays, you have half days on Wednesdays,
Yeah.
so it was interesting. But yeah, so the high school experience was good. 3 years I was playing linebacker
Yeah.
mainly, and then went to Sacred Heart. I mean, excuse me, went to Proctor. Had a good career there.
Mm-hmm.
Playing a lot of wing T, football, which is different.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was playing middle linebacker, and obviously, like, I ended up playing D lineman in college, but at the time, like, that's what they saw me, and I knew I wasn't gonna play like I was, like, I guess body wise, built wise, I was little. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't fit the typical middle linebacker. Middle linebacker, a little shorter, they're a
Yeah.
little quicker, stuff like that, right? So
Uh-huh.
it was overall, it was good. It was a good
Yeah.
experience.
And talk about kind of and I'm always interested with athletes. Talk about kind of because you kind of had a recruiting experience, your first recruiting experience with Sacred Heart, like you just mentioned, and then later on you transferred to Ball State. So I'll let you hit. Well, we'll talk about the recruiting out of high school first, and when we get to the college stage, we'll talk about kind of that transfer session. But can you talk about your recruiting process? How did it go? How did you land on Sacred Heart first?
Yeah, so recruiting started a little bit in at my Borica Memorial, but
Hmm.
I said I wasn't getting the looks, and I thought
Hmm.
that I wanted. Excuse me. So like D2s, Merrimack, which they're now D1 now. They moved up, but
Yeah.
at the time, small schools in the NE10 division and
Hmm.
D2, and then I moved to Proctor. Like I was getting looks from kind of made like Patriot League schools.
Yeah.
Uh, my first official scholarship was actually from Navy, the Naval Academy.
Okay.
That was my first scholarship, and then my other scholarship I had was from Marist,
Okay.
actually D2s. I took an official visit to Assumption,
Hmm.
uh, Mercy Harrison School, some D2 school in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So then, Sacred Heart came along. So I took my visit. The back then the rule was you take 5 official visits. I ended
Yep.
up only one. So my plan was I went to Sacred Heart. I took official visit Sacred Heart. I loved it and I enjoyed it. And then next week I was gonna go. I was supposed to go to Marist, but I think I just committed like I think the day after my visit to Sacred Heart.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, Enjoyed it, and then I had to make the call to Marist to let them know that I wasn't gonna come, and yeah, so that's basically how it went. Pretty much. Oh, yes, high school. That was so like I said, Patriot League schools,
Hmm.
uh, the academy schools,
Gotcha.
yeah, schools like that. So not nothing big, not nothing too big, but yeah,
Hmm.
definitely good. I think I developed later in terms of my as a player and all that.
Yeah.
So
And a lot of the smaller schools, they allow you to do that, allow you room to do that is to develop and grow and like you did potentially transfer to bigger, better things in that regard.
yeah,
But can you talk about the difference between when you got to Sacred Heart, your first game in college, kind of the difference between the college game versus when you were playing at high school or Proctor Academy? What the difference was, or did the prep academy prepare you well for kind of that college
difference between high
uh
school. Um,
in college? Yeah.
of course, everyone. Like I know everyone mentions it, the speed of the game, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, you getting adjusted, but obviously when you're first playing your first college game. So I
Yeah.
redshirted my some people play, right away. And
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I didn't, but I had a redshirted, but yeah, so this obviously the speed of the game.
Hmm.
Just kind of obviously the strength a little bit,
Yeah.
just to adjust to all that at the
Hmm.
time. Because obviously you coming in. It's different, right? A freshman in
Yeah.
basketball for them to adjust sometimes, and sometimes a college freshman they can
Yeah.
adjust certain positions, right? Like for example, D lineman, the strength level is different.
Yeah.
Um, I think receivers, skill position guys, it's easier for them to be able to transition to the game because you
They're
know,
already kind of used to that process going throughout. Yeah.
it's more just speed, just
Hmm.
stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
uh, but yeah, obviously, always
And
develop. Yep, yep.
how important can you talk about the importance of film as well? Watching film, using film to kind of learn from that. Uh, can you talk about the importance of film in college and the difference between watching, like the amount of film that you have to watch in college versus high school in that regard?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's a big difference. High school, you kind of, I mean, are you really dependent? Like, you're not
Yeah.
watching too much film. I mean, obviously, you study the game, right? But
Yeah.
like, I level because depending where obviously college is, it's like a competition, right?
Hmm.
Coaches are always, they're looking to play the best players. They're not here to, play favorites. So,
Yeah.
you're always gonna be on top of your game. You're always gonna find something that's gonna give you that advantage, whether it's
Yeah.
physically and mentally. Sometimes the players that played, they were mentally better in the film room and they're mentally there than
Hmm.
the people that have physical traits, like physical talents, but they just didn't have the mental sometimes. So sometimes the players are gonna, the coaches are gonna trust the players that know their assignments, study the film, know their opponent, at the back of their hand, to be able to be on the field and execute. And that's what the coach's main thing, priority is: be able to have players on the field that they can trust and that they can execute
Hmm.
when the name is called.
Gotcha, gotcha. And you had a through all that film study and through all that process, Chris, you had a great career at Sacred Heart. I mean, you were team captain in 2019. Um, Ended up with 41 tackles that year, and had a stellar career at Sacred Heart. And then you decided to take a look into the transfer portal. And can you talk about that experience being in the, it's because especially now, because with NIL and everything back then, NIL and all that stuff wasn't a thing, but now with NIL and transfer portal, the game has been changed so much. So can you talk about your specific experience with the transfer portal pre NIL?
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I went in, it was like 2019. Yeah, that
Yeah.
time, had to sit down with my coach. Like, look, thank you for everything.
Hmm.
Yeah, went into transfer portal. Did that. I think like it was, transfer portal is interesting. Obviously, everyone's experience is different. At least for me, I think within like the first, it's weird because I don't know what the physical transfer portal looks like. I don't know what coaches see,
Yeah.
but it's obviously, oh, this guy into the portal. You get a notification, right? You're in the
Hmm.
portal. You post
Yeah.
it. Okay, then I think within like 15 minutes, like some like D2 that was in the same. I went to Connecticut, so the school,
Yeah.
university, like hit me up email. Hey, just saw this and that. I was like surprised,
Yeah.
and then even I think it was like that same day. That's when Ball State they hit me up, um, that same day. So it was
Gotcha.
everything happening fast, and um, I think the difference is obviously, when you first coming in as a high school player, right? You don't
Hmm.
know, you don't have like obviously a player can grow. You don't know what he can grow into,
Yeah.
and obviously, being able to, I was fortunate enough to have a solid career at Sacred Heart,
Yeah.
and was decided that I wanted a new challenge. I wanted to get out of my comfort zone,
Yeah.
new change destination. I've been in Northeast, even obviously speaking high school wise, college my whole
Yeah.
life. So I mean, obviously I was open to any schools, but I ended up having I don't know how many scholarships, maybe I
Hmm.
feel like maybe 8 to 12. I forget the exact number, but I know in that
Gotcha.
somewhere, mainly CAA schools and the
Hmm.
Max, and then some schools and outside of that. But
Uh-huh.
yeah, so it was it's a fun experience. It's stressful, but it's definitely nice. I guess it's rewarding if you're a player that was under recruited.
Gotcha.
Be like your hard work. You put in work, and now teams are
Hmm.
finally it wasn't recognizing you, or
Yeah.
school are finally recognizing you. So it's rewarding in that regard.
No, for sure, for sure. Now you got your a team in your home state and UMass joining the MAC as well now. So
Yeah,
see how that transition goes, and it's great to see kind of the MAC expanding up into the Northeast as well.
Yeah, nah, definitely. Because I mean, they were in it actually years. I mean, if you remember, they were in it like years ago.
Yeah, then they became independent. Now they're back into it. So it's
That's
it's
the
great to see the MAC kind of expanding back out
for
and
sure.
yeah. So and then can you talk about your Ball State experience as well, being at Ball State and kind of how your time at Ball State was and kind of what lessons you took away from transitioning from an FCS school to an FBS
Yeah,
non-power five.
honestly, boss, yeah, it was a great experience. There's ups and downs, of course.
Mm-hmm.
You come in my first year, expecting the season. They say it
Mm-hmm.
get, then you're like still training in limbo, and then all of a sudden they call you. Oh, we're starting the
Yeah.
season. So it was tough now. But obviously, even first coming in, we came in working out. It was like what June, yeah, June, whatever. I had to come in. We're working out
Yeah.
outside, wearing masks, but we're doing like certain things, and it was just
Mm-hmm.
it's memorable in that regard. But obviously, even like honestly, I'm not gonna lie, even obviously it's FCS to FBS. The
That's
speed,
a
speed of the game is different. It's
on
believe it or not.
each conferences, right? Yeah, each
Oh,
side of the
imagine like obviously when we playing
yeah.
went and played Penn State. I
Yeah.
felt this, but like still, like, obviously playing like SEC schools, I can imagine the speed and all that. So it was interesting seeing the speed, seeing the skill of the players. It definitely was
Hmm.
more.
Yeah,
You know,
no, that's an interesting point you bring up. Like just within different aspects of college, how speed and different things change. Like, you mentioned the FCS and the FBS there, and how both of those are you're playing collegiate football at both. It's how
that
different, how the stark contrast between the two.
yeah,
In that regard's great.
honestly,
Um,
like being able to transition, learning. I learned the biggest difference between and obviously FCS and FBS too. I feel
mhm.
FCS you could get away with, you could be a great player, good player, and get away with things. Being
Yeah,
at ball, everyone's hungry. You obviously know a lot of those guys on that team.
yeah,
A great situation with a lot of older guys that have been through a lot of adversity and tough times those years prior,
gotcha.
and to be a small piece of the puzzle. We had a lot of guys come in, and being able to be a part of it was an honor. Being able to be with those guys,
Hmm.
it was great. It was a great experience.
I gotcha.
Out of those guys, a lot of guys that are hungry have the same aspirations as you and
Hmm.
want to be the best version of themselves and have an opportunity to play in the professional or
Yeah,
obviously as you see a lot of guys are there right now or at least was there at some point or had some type of
yeah,
opportunity.
yeah.
So
No,
it was
it's wild to see that process, and we've had. I mean, Ball State's put a couple pros into the league. Obviously, Nick Jones, I think you played with him. If I'm not, he just won a Super Bowl with the Chiefs. I mean, you had Willie Snead there, both Super Bowl connections with the Cards. So yeah, I mean, you're very right on that in terms of like when you get to that FBS, like, even at the non-power five, they're still competing, they're still hungry to get to that next level, and be a part of that
oh,
process.
Jones though because I mean like when I first came in he's one of those guys he's probably one of the most confident guys I played with, probably the
Yeah,
most confident with, like he knew like, hey, I'm destined, I'm going to the NFL, like he was
yeah,
percent in. So like, shout out
hmm,
Nick for the Super Bowl and everything. So
yeah.
yeah,
He's
man,
been
he's
great, and Ball State has been represented well at the professional level as well. So it's been great to see. And so, kind of talked about your early career, kind of your high school career, college career. As we kind of wind down, I want to give you the chance. If and I always present my people that I interview about this is, if you're talking because you went from playing youth Pop Warner to high school to being at the FCS and then kind of coming into the FBS D1 in a very stacked conference in the MAC. And so if you I'm gonna present this scenario to you. If you're talking to a high school kid or youth football kids, what kind of advice would you give them to the kids at the youth level that want to get to that point to where you're at to get to that FBS Division 1 level?
honestly, the main point is really just obviously it's different now, right? Because like you mentioned,
Yeah,
there is the opportunity. So like some
yeah,
people we're not gonna lie. I mean, I feel like there's kids out there that are doing things for the wrong reason. They're trying to chase
Hmm.
money, and I
Yeah.
feel like you want to get lost in that because, right? Let's say, depending on what your goal is, obviously, if you want to be a amazing college player, that's fine.
Hmm.
If you want to pursue the NFL, you shouldn't be focused on NIL because at the end of the day, if that's what you want to pursue, everything's gonna fall into place. I feel like the
Hmm.
main focus on the game because your game's gonna speak for yourself, and then when your game, speaks for itself, the NIL is gonna come. Those opportunities gonna come.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously at bigger schools, right? But obviously, like you mentioned too, playing Division One level is always great, right? But
Yeah.
you don't start there.
Yeah.
Look at I was naming an example. Look at I'm not sure you're familiar with Sydney Houston. Um,
Uh, I know he played for the Eagles, but I'm not super
oh, no,
familiar with him.
sorry. It's no Sydney Houston. He played for the Ball State. Um,
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not familiar with Sydney.
uh, yeah, he went to a D2 school, right? Played
Okay.
hard. He Ball State, just finished. They just finished with their pro day. Like he played at a D2, and he was all had a great first year. Then second year, he was first team All MAC. So
Hmm.
like, he did it from a small school. That's just one example, right? But
Yeah.
I play football, focus on that because now a lot of thing is it's hard too, especially with high school kids. They
Yeah.
can with grown men that have been in the college program for 1, 2, 3, 4 years. So like,
Yeah.
it's gonna be harder to honestly get into Division One because a lot of people are taking. So you gotta, obviously, if you're blessed enough to get an opportunity, obviously go for it. But just
Yeah.
do what's best fit for you, where you're gonna maximize yourself on and off the field. And obviously,
Hmm.
another advice I'd give is make sure you like if you do stay, make sure you're going to a school that you can enjoy yourself. Like let's say
Hmm.
for example, people leave when coaches leave. Like
Yeah.
if you enjoy yourself to the point where like okay, I can still see myself there, even if a coach, if like think about it, obviously it's hard to think about it when you're fully in it, but have
Yeah.
the mind, okay, maybe I could still see myself being here if for some reason a coach decided to leave.
Yeah.
Uh, those I think those are the main things I would say I give to younger kids. And
Oh, that's great advice, and you do bring up a good point there. Of like with all this NIL money coming in, it's a lot of players potentially chasing the money and chasing the thing. But you let your game speak for yourself, the money's going to come in, and everything's going to come in. So it's great advice there,
that,
on that
then
regard. So
the other day I seen a kid
yeah,
hasn't played a down of down of college. He came into Florida like a bigger recruit. He
yeah,
bought his house and it's like no, obviously don't get
yeah,
me wrong. Great it is the NIL is doing some great things, but I just
yeah,
hope kids are continuing to stay focused on what the main priority is: playing football, getting the
yeah,
education. I hope like people aren't losing sight of that.
yeah.
But it's also
No, I
great to take
agree.
opportunities. So
Yeah.
don't. I'm
And
happy that
Yeah, NIL has done so many fantastic things for athletes, in terms of getting them to where we are today. But yeah, like you said, you're right. Like making sure that you're
you
prioritizing what your focus is. That's the key.
know,
But it's all the time we have for this episode of the Athlete Insights podcast. Chris, I want to thank you for coming on, taking time. I know you're flying out today back to Massachusetts, so I appreciate you taking the time this morning to kind of come on and speak. And um, but yeah, you can all have your social media handles on the video, so you can follow Chris, follow his journey, his life outside of football as well, and follow his process. And you can follow our podcast on YouTube, Google, Apple, anywhere you get podcasts. That's where you can find ours as well. So, Chris, appreciate you coming on, and we'll see you next time.